magnificent. G'day folks, Glenn Torrance here with a little update on my new project Commodore. 8 days ago this car was in a wrecking yard in Cooma in southern New South Wales. I spotted it there a couple of years ago, got reminded about it in November last year on a little trip south. Anyway, I bought it, I've dragged it home, I've given it a wash, I've brought it into the shed, I've jacked it up and I've started work on it. The first thing I did was go through the engine. The oil in this motor was more than 20 years old. The engine was having trouble with idling. Fresh spark plugs, fresh oil of course. I've given it a good clean. I've been through the cooling system. The coolant that came out of this engine was just disgraceful, but luckily there was no corrosion inside the engine. So fresh hoses, fresh coolant, happy days. What else have I done? I've dropped the front suspension out of the car. Obviously the car, being the age it is, it needs new dampers and it needs a fair bit of other work. So I also discovered that the struts are a mismatched set, so I'm actually going to fit another set of 6-cylinder struts with fresh dampers, fresh steering rack boots and probably fresh ball joints. What else? Follow me. Like a lot of Commodores of this era, this car had rust in the spare wheel well. While the car's up on chassis stands, of course, I intend to fix this. I've cut the old one out. I went looking for a new aftermarket replacement. Couldn't find one. Nobody's got any stock at the moment. Some people out there watching this know that I play with Volkswagens. So what I did was I thought, well, that's kind of shaped like a Volkswagen mudguard, isn't it? So what I did is I got an old guard from my spares and I beat a bit of a divot in the bottom, which sort of looks a little bit like the standard Commodore one, and then I cut that out of the mudguard. My next task, of course, is to offer that, weld it in. Wish me luck. Some bad news for my 1981 Commodore is the petrol tank. I dropped it out of the car last night. Oh, goodness me. Did you see that? That's the hole I knew was in the tank. I was happy to have that repaired. However, there are other holes in the tank, which basically means this tank is a write-off. So I'm on the hunt for another good second-hand one. And they are getting a little more difficult these days to find than 10 or 15 years ago, but I'll find one. Oh. Last night I drained the diff oil and it looks sort of kind of okay. I was worried that it might have some water in it. Quite often cars that have been sitting around for a long time get a bit of condensation in the diff and it stuffs things up. Now I don't know what's inside there. As you can see, I've taken half the bolts off. I'm going to take the cover off this diff. I want to make sure that the cogs in there aren't like corroded, because in the diff half the cog is sitting above the high tide mark of the oil, so it can rust. Fingers crossed that there's no problem with this one, because I really don't have to rebuild the diff. Oh, whoops, where'd that go? Probably into the oil, knowing my luck. Just bend all this up out of the way temporarily. And damn, I dropped a bit of dust in. Yucky, yucky, yucky. Yuck. Might pressure wash that with some degreaser. No worries there. I reckon that diff's going to be fine. So the mechanical makeover of my Commodore is well on the way. What I've got to do one evening this week is disassemble the struts. I'm going to give them a flick of paint and fit fresh dampers, etc. I've also got to do the brakes in the car. The brakes actually work on this car, which is quite a surprise to me and the other people that were there when we got the car running, but I'm going to go through the brakes too, of course, machine the discs and drums, fit fresh rear wheel cylinders, and of course fresh pads and shoes. And that's pretty much it for my Commodore. My name's GT and I'll see you guys and girls next time. What am I doing?